MSTR has talked about deploying 42 billion. They're going to deploy that 42 billion over 2025, and they're going to continue. But let's just say they deploy 100 billion. They're not going to be able to buy 300,000 Bitcoin with that 100 billion, right? They just won't be able to do that. Unfortunately, the math does not look really great for MSTR. They already have a valuation that is in excess of the current market valuation of the Satoshi stack, which is 1 million Bitcoin. They're currently valued as if they had 1.2 million Bitcoin in their treasury. They don't. They have 350,000 Bitcoin. So
Fred Krueger offers a convincing outlook on Bitcoin's future, claiming that despite the involvement of outside parties like corporate treasuries, sovereign wealth funds, and exchange-traded funds, ETFs, the cryptocurrency's historical power law will not change. The smooth average of Bitcoin's logarithmic price over the previous 4 years shows a very stable trajectory, which is compatible with this power law. Krueger predicts that the price of Bitcoin may reach $500,000 by 2029 as a result of this trend. In spite of short-term volatility, he contends that Bitcoin's long-term trajectory closely resembles its past trends, challenging the idea that significant events or market catalysts could shift this course. Krueger's research provides a welcome rejection of the notion that external acceptance will radically change Bitcoin's historical growth trajectory. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more expert crypto content. Now, let's dive back into the interview and explore more insights from Fred Krueger.
So the first prediction, and I know a lot of people are upset about it, it really is that the power law is not going to break. Now, why am I so completely convinced about that? I think, it's very simple. First of all, if you look at the power law just in and of itself, you can easily think that, it's wobbly and everything is going to change with the ETFs or sovereign adoption or Bitcoin strategic reserve, but I don't think so. I think it is not likely to change. This is here the 4-year average of the log price. Okay, so what did I do to get this? I took the Bitcoin price, I converted it into a log price, and then I averaged that log over the last 4 years. And you can see, and so this is the log of time here, and this is the log of Bitcoin price. Now, if you go to 5, that's $100,000 of Bitcoin, 10 to the power 5. 6 is a million, and we have seen that this smoothed out average log BTC price is a straight line, and the next 4 years it's going to depend. The first part's going to depend on these prices here because you're going to be averaging some of these. But where it's going to end up is going to be completely independent of any of this data. So if we go to 10 to the power 1.3, and that number is 19.9, so let's call it 20 years. That is 2029. We see that we're going to get, it's about 500K. All right, a little bit under 500K. It really doesn't seem like this path is going to do anything then continue. So that's my first real post, is that the power law is probably not going to change, right? That's the first thing I was going to say. I think there's going to be a bear market of something like 50% sometime in the next 3 years. Now, for those of us who've been around and who've been through some of these cycles, 50% is nothing, right? We've seen 75, 80% bear markets. I think this one will be less. I think it'll be probably something more like 50%. But I do think we're going to drop 50% from whatever high we make in the next 3 years. I also don't think this is going to happen in 2026. I think it could happen in 2027, 2028. I sort of believe that there's going to be some form of a super cycle. I don't think that the next cycle is going to be dictated by a mining halving related timeline. And I think the net of this is the power law is going to be respected. And if and when we get this bear market, I do believe that MSTR will crash a lot more than Bitcoin. So I do believe MSTR is going to go down much more than 50%. And I think it's going to revert to a multiple of 1 or even lower. I think it could trade at a discount to fair market value. I think MSTR is overvalued, and I do think that in the next bear market, whenever that comes, it will contract down substantially. My fourth prediction is that the real engines of growth are going to be IBIT and FBTC. So I think that the process of having institutional investors and mainly advisors managed accounts are going to be the next big block of buyers. Now, if you look at the overall kind of way wealth is set up, you have about 1/3 is sort of self-directed, people just going to their brokerage accounts and making their own investment decisions. 1/3 of the wealth is in managed accounts where people are managing these investment decisions for other people. And I've mentioned that my mother has a managed account at Morgan Stanley, for example. And, a lot of this managed money, almost none of it has really hit the market yet. And the third part is institutional, pension funds, retirement accounts and stuff. So, I just don't think we've seen anything in terms of real institutional money coming into this asset class at this point. And I think that's really the place you're going to see most of the funds come in over the next 3 years. And I do expect we're going to see literally hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars coming in over the next 5 years, or the next three years even, maybe $1 trillion come into this asset. So I'm extremely bullish for Bitcoin, but I definitely think, and I go back to my original premise that I made when I first started talking on Twitter, which I think that the ETFs are really the big deal, not sovereign wealth funds, not corporate treasuries, and not closed-end funds like MSTR. So that's my thesis for that.
Fred Krueger also draws a comparison between MicroStrategy and closed-end funds, like Bitwise, to highlight a potential risk for investors, which often hold large Bitcoin reserves tend to trade at a discount to their net asset value. Krueger cautions that MicroStrategy's valuation could face a similar issue, potentially dropping below its Bitcoin-adjusted NAV due to shifts in investor sentiment or market conditions. This caution serves as a reminder that investors may be exposed to unanticipated risks if they rely exclusively on MicroStrategy's premium growing steadily. Now, let's return to Fred Krueger's insights from his interview. To stay up to date on the most recent Bitcoin and professional predictions, please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications for future updates. Now let's hear his following words.
And my fifth prediction is that lending is going to become a significant business, right? So a lot of people, a lot of Bitcoiners are now sitting on pretty big gains in Bitcoin, and they would like to tap some of those gains without selling their Bitcoin, without selling their ETFs. And I think that is coming. I think it's coming in a lot of different forms. I think it's coming in terms of ETFs being able to, offer really good margin to lend people. We're seeing this product sort of evolve in many different ways, both in the KYC institutional, ETF version of this, and as well as we'll see it in sort of more decentralized, non-KYC, Aave type products. But I definitely think it's coming, and I think that's going to be another big thing that's going to push for the market to extend, right? Because I think that a lot of people, who have gains will not sell to lock in those gains. Instead, I think they will just borrow against their gains. So I think that's going to be part of the big business. The second thing I will say is that MSTR is going to stop. They're really going to tap out in the next 4 years at about 500,000 Bitcoin. They're not going to get to 1 million Bitcoin. And I think this is important. I think MSTR has talked about deploying 42 billion. They're going to deploy that 42 billion over 2025, and they're going to continue. But let's just say they deploy 100 billion. They're not going to be able to buy 300,000 Bitcoin with that 100 billion, right? They just won't be able to do that. Unfortunately, the math does not look really great for MSTR. They already have a valuation that is in excess of the current market valuation of the Satoshi stack, which is 1 million Bitcoin. They're currently valued as if they had 1.2 million Bitcoin in their treasury. They don't. They have 350,000 Bitcoin. So I don't think they're going to be able to buy the next 300,000 Bitcoin for 100 billion. I don't. And I think in general, their strategy of tapping the convertible debt market, you're hitting the limits of that market. That is a $300 billion a year market. They can only do so much in that market. They can't take 200 billion of that $300 billion market. There's simply not going to be enough buyers of this. So as I believe that they are going to slow down, I believe the multiple is going to start contracting, because I think it's going to be very clear that they're not going to be able to get anywhere close to the million Bitcoin that their multiple would really require them to get. And so that's my prediction for MSTR. Some of the MSTR fanboys are going to say, well, at that point they can buy back MSTR. They can do all these things, but we'll see when that happens. I just would like to point out that MSTR was at a multiple of 1 11 months ago, or 10 months ago even. Things can go back down, and in general, closed-end funds can trade and do trade typically at below 1 multiple. And just one example of that, look at Bitwise, BITW. I own that fund. I bought it at about a negative 25% discount. Now it's at a 15% discount. And that fund owns 75% of that fund is in Bitcoin, 10% or 15% is in Ethereum, and then they have a little bit of Solana and a few other coins. But it nevertheless remains at a discount. And you can say they don't have an operating company, but I would argue that neither does MSTR.
Fred Krueger addresses the increasing importance of financing in the Bitcoin space in his 6th prediction. According to Krueger, more people will want to access the value of their Bitcoin without selling it, because many owners are sitting on substantial gains. Lending products, such as decentralized non-KYC platforms and exchange-traded funds, ETFs, that provide margin loans, would probably increase as a result. According to Krueger, lending will emerge as a significant industry in the cryptocurrency arena, enabling investors to borrow against their Bitcoin holdings and increase their market participation without having to sell to lock in gains. He then discusses MicroStrategy's MSTR future and projects that the company will reach a peak in its Bitcoin holdings, reaching approximately 500,000 Bitcoin over the course of the next 4 years. Krueger thinks MicroStrategy won't be able to achieve 1 million Bitcoin despite their ambitions to deploy $42 billion by 2025 because of the current state of the market and the restrictions on convertible debt, which will make it impossible for them to buy the remaining Bitcoin at the rate they want. He notes that even though MicroStrategy only has 350,000 Bitcoin, it is already valued as though it had 1.2 million. Given that Krueger predicts a decrease in the company's premium, this difference raises the possibility that the valuation of the business may be under pressure in the future. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and enable post notifications for more similar content if these insights captivate you. Please feel free to share your thoughts below. Until next time, happy investing.